Good morning. Hello, everybody. Wednesday, July 24th. The Olympics have gotten going. Unofficially, I think we're unofficially underway with the Olympic Games. But either way, it's Wednesday. It's hump day. I went with the headband today. I normally, look, we're in the off season. I normally don't take the time to go do my hair, get a haircut. I guess I should say do my hair or go get a haircut. I don't go do my hair. But we get into the summer and I don't know, don't have to be at the rink. Don't necessarily have to go anywhere in particular. So I kind of slack off on getting a haircut. I normally go with a hat. Doesn't always feel like a hat day. Today didn't feel like a hat day. So changed it up a bit, went with the headband, and Chloe keeps me humble. She calls me out in the press box. She calls me out here for my shoes, for my hair, for my drink of choice. But you know what? That's why she's here, making sure that we're all staying on top of our game as best we can. And that's what I'm doing today. That's what I'm trying to do today. And I'm actually already blowing it. Got to head on over. Got to make sure that folks know that we're here. Getting things pushed out on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. How's everyone doing today? Exciting day here. We've had a lot of talk, a lot of lead up to the Olympics. I got to get my water bottle out of the way. I'm getting the boss. Oh my gosh, in my ear, and I actually turned on. This is a disaster. I just said I'm on top of my game, and I'm already blowing it so hard. Today's an exciting day. We've talked a lot about the lead up to the Olympics, and again, the opening ceremonies still aren't for 48 hours, but we are off and running at the Olympic Games with a couple of events already going off this morning. I believe they started at like 3 a.m. Mountain Time were the first rugby matches. And the very first results we get out of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, Australia beat Samoa in men's rugby sevens 21-14, the very first match of the Olympic Games. It was also the first contest in general of these Olympic Games, and it goes to Australia. We're going to talk more about Australia's athletes coming up here in just a second. We got some news on 2034 Olympic Games as things get kicked off today, so we have a lot to get into. Plus, we are going to take a quick trip over to the NHL, take a look at a controversial hire that was made this morning, but we are going to stick with the Paris Olympics for right now. Like I said, Australia beat Samoa 21-14. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'm not overly familiar with rugby rules, scoring, things like that. I do know that Australia is one of the world powers when it comes to rugby, so no real surprise there that they get off and running first. We also have two final results in men's soccer in the Olympics. Now, I do want to pause here real quick and say I was informed just yesterday. I was talking to Jay and JJ, we got a lot of J's here, about the fact that I was excited. I said, you guys win. You guys win. I'm excited to watch Olympic soccer. I think this is going to be cool. We got a really nice warm-up, with those last two tournaments. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. The news was then broken to me. These are under 23 tournaments, but then you've got weird rules where you can have a couple players who aren't under 23. It was more of like immediately too complicated and I'm out. I'll of course follow along with the results, of which I've got two to tell you guys about, but I was looking forward to watching the games, being a little bit invested. But again, it just sounds like more silly soccer rules that don't make much sense. However, Spain U23s do knock off Uzbekistan this morning 2-1, keeping it just rolling for Spain as a nation in terms of international play for soccer. They go undefeated to win the Euro Cup just a couple weeks ago. From start to finish group play right through to the championship match, they go undefeated. Their U23 team gets things kicked off this morning at the Olympics with a 2-1 win over Uzbekistan. And then we had a tie between Argentina and Morocco, 2-2. That one finished up about 30 or 45 minutes ago. We have two games going right now. Ghana and New Zealand are playing. That game is at half. New Zealand up 1-0. The Dominican Republic and Egypt also facing off right now. That game is almost to halftime, tied at 0-0. I was going through the, if you have Peacock, the NBC Comcast streaming service, you can get basically every single event throughout these entire Olympics. I was going through the menus last night. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to it. There is a lot in there to watch. So you can start watching all this stuff right now if you want to at home. If you have Peacock, you can just turn it on there. And like I said, they got pretty much everything, and it's all broken out really well. So we are off and running. Things are underway in Paris, France, even though the opening ceremonies still aren't until Friday. That's going to be at 11 a.m. right there on the Seine River, ending in front of the Eiffel Tower. First time it's ever been done that way. Not going to be in a stadium, anything like that. The countries will be coming in. The countries and the athletes will be arriving by boat, coming right down the Seine River. I think it's going to be awesome. We talked about it the other day. LeBron James selected as the U.S. flag bearer, as voted by all 592 U.S. Olympic athletes. Oh, man, I've got something in my eye, and I was wondering if I could just casually blink it out and nobody would notice, but I had to rub it. Torch update for you guys. It will be arriving. This is the last city that it is stopping in before getting back to Paris. Nanterre is where it is today. I'm sure that was the most American possible pronunciation of that city. Nanterre is where the torch is running through today. Like I said, it doesn't have a stop tomorrow. It won't be stopping in any specific city. It is running straight through to Paris, France, to hit the Seine River for the opening ceremonies to light the torch, the big torch that will burn for 2 weeks. Excuse me. So it is making its last stop today in Nanterre before then continuing on to Paris. Long journey. They started running on May 8th. Was the first time the torch was left Paris, and it's been passed off in different cities throughout the world since then, and now making its way into Paris, Seine River, to light the torch for the Olympic Games. Looking forward to it. Now, we said we wanted to circle back to Australia and their athletes. This is something, if you were watching yesterday, my great, fabulous co-host Liv Moods touched on this briefly. It's pretty gnarly. So that's what she was like, yeah, I don't want to talk about this for too long. Matt Dawson might be a name that you're going to hear a few times over the next couple of weeks as the Olympic Games move through and we get more and more into the field hockey schedule. Now, like I said, if you watched yesterday, you heard about this, you've maybe seen this story floating around the internet. Matt Dawson recently, in training for the 2024 Olympics with the Australian field hockey team, broke his finger. Broke the top half of his ring finger on his left hand and went in to get it treated, talk to the doctors, and essentially, giving you guys the Spark Notes version here, after all the treatment options had kind of gone over, they said, yeah, unfortunately, with the damage that's done to it, you won't be able to participate in the Olympics. It won't be healed until after. Very sorry. Now, you do have one other option, but, it's pretty crazy. So, you're probably going to have to miss the Olympics. Well, Matt Dawson said, what's the other option? And they said, well, Matt, you could either miss the Olympics. You already have an Olympic medal. You could miss the Olympics and rehab your finger, and it'll be back to normal eventually. Or you could cut it off and go participate in the Olympics. And Matt Dawson chose to have the top half of his ring finger amputated so that he could then go participate in the 2024 Olympic Games for Australia. Look, you guys know I cover hockey. I cover the NHL full time. That's my primary job. I've done it for several years. I've played hockey since I was a little guy, 5 years old. And the one thing, I've been in the hockey community a long time. The culture in hockey is to be tough, to put the team before yourself, to make the sacrifices. And ice hockey players get a lot of credit for that. They get a lot of credit for how the injuries that they are willing to fight through, the pain that they go through to achieve team success. And I've talked to some tough SOBs in my day. I've met some hockey players who have played through some stuff that I'm like, you guys are crazy. This is on a different level. The Australian field hockey coach, when asked for comment about this, said, man, we're happy to have him here. The level of commitment is unbelievable. I wouldn't have done that. Matt Dawson is already a one-time Olympic medalist coming back trying to reach gold. They're facing off first against the 2016 champion, Argentina. They won the 2016 Rio Games. That's who Australia is kicking off their schedule with in these games. Silver medal for Australia in Tokyo in 2020. It's clear to see why he made the decision that he did. For me, silver medal in 2020, and they get to kick off this year's tournament against the former champions. Matt Dawson has a chance at an Olympic gold medal. He's 30 years old. To me, this is what makes the Olympic Games special. We've talked about it on this show leading up. We talked about it yesterday on my show with JJ, our hockey show. Growing up back in the early 2000s, mid 2010s, I felt like the Olympic Games were a show stop. Like it was everyone stopped what they were doing to watch. And I'm not going to, rehash all that, but I feel like it's stuff like this. Matt Dawson has a chance to not only win an Olympic gold medal for himself and his teammates, but he gets to do it as a representative of his country. The Olympics only come around every 4 years. You don't know how many chances you're going to get. At 30 years old, by the time you're talking 34, unfortunately, in the world of high-level elite athletes, at 34 years old, you're really looked at as in the very back part of your career, on the older side of things, and with newer and new age, younger athletes coming in at a high level, seemingly more and more every year. Players like Matt Dawson understand this may be my last chance to win a gold medal as one of the best field hockey players in Australia. I feel like maybe part of what I've talked about this week with the Olympics not feeling like as big of a deal as they used to be, maybe that's something that's more exclusive here to the U.S. Maybe other countries around the world don't feel that. Again, I've referenced it several times, and I'm sure maybe some of you are getting sick of hearing me talk about it, but when the Euro Cup was going on, someone asked Jay here, who's from the Netherlands, they said, Jay, is your team playing today? And he said, it's not my team, it's my country. And I think that's a viewpoint that we maybe don't have here in the U.S. We look at it as, oh yeah, the U.S. team is playing, that team of U.S. players. But in other nations around the world, they truly look at it as, I'm representing everyone in this country. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's U.S. athletes that look at it that way as well. But I know here at Guerilla Sports, we've spent a lot of time talking about and worked on different pieces of content that are coming for you guys that are based around the Colorado athletes that are at the Olympic Games. To us, that's what we find really cool. Hey, here's some athletes from our state, our small portion of this massive country, and we have some athletes that are going to represent us in our state. That, to me, I think is maybe how other countries view this. Not maybe, I say it back. That's absolutely how countries around the world view the Olympic Games. that this is the best that we have to offer. I do feel like maybe sometimes here in the U.S. we forget, because we're such a large nation. Again, we talk a lot about Jay and the Instagram account that he runs. It's called Jay in the USA. Highly recommend you guys go check it out. But he and I have talked before, as you know, he's someone who's European who has come over here to live in the U.S. That when you're not from here, you picture the U.S. as like, oh, it's the United States. That's, you know, it's one thing, it's the United States. But when you're here and you spend any amount of time here in the U.S., you quickly come to realize every state has their own cuisine, their own way of talking, their own slang, their own customs, their own traditions. The U.S., I think, has maybe gotten, it's so large that we lose that, ooh, we're representing everybody feel. But I see a story like Matt Dawson and what he's willing to go through to get a chance to represent his country and to potentially win a medal. And I think it's a great reminder of, it's not just a game. It's not just sports. For these athletes, it's everything. It's everything they've worked towards, and it's everybody that they get to represent. It's all the sacrifices that their community made so that they could get to this point. It's a crazy story. It's not a story that I'm sure I can fully relate with, cutting off your finger for a spot on the roster. But I think it's a great story. And I think it's a great reminder on the day that the Olympics get going, what these games are all about and why they mean so much and why we should all care and why we should all be paying attention. These are athletes at the top of their sport in a lot of different fields. And we get to see them all come together and put human excellence on display for 2 weeks. I've talked a lot about the Olympics in the lead up. And like I said, this story with Matt Dawson is why. And it's why I'm so excited to watch this over the next couple of weeks. You will see dreams achieved over the next couple of weeks. It's truly the ultimate display of the heartbreak and the celebration of sports. I cannot wait to get it all going. As soon as this show wraps up, I'm going to get the soccer matches turned on the TV. I just want to get it all going. But big shout out to Matt Dawson for putting it all on the line and reminding us all why the Olympics are so special. Not fully departing from the Olympics, but putting a bow on Olympic talks for today. At the kickoff of the Olympic Games, the IOC did announce the selection for the 2034 Winter Olympics. They will be hosted in Salt Lake City 10 years from now. Salt Lake City last hosted the games in 2002. And wouldn't you know it, what a run of about 6 months here for Salt Lake City. Recently awarded an NHL team. Now those facilities that they will be building out for the Utah Hockey Club will be front and center for the Winter Olympic Games, as they will be hosting for the first time in 32 years. I remember clearly when the Olympics were in Salt Lake the last time. May just have to try to get down there to participate in some of those Olympic festivities, since they will be so close to us right here in Denver. But exciting stuff. The the Olympic Games coming to the United States, both in 2028. Is it 2026? 2028. Yeah. 2028. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right. I was thinking maybe 2026, but I said there's no way it's the Winter Olympic Games. 2028 in LA, and then Winter Olympic Games in Salt Lake City in 2034. So we got some games coming to the U.S., and more importantly, our time zone. That's the biggest thing. I believe the first rugby match of the day kicked off at 3 a.m. Mountain Time today. So our time zone is what I am most excited for. Okay. I think that's all we've got on Olympics for today. We've talked about it here in the days and weeks leading up. Part of why I'm so excited for the Olympics to get started is because that means in the middle of July, we're going to have some stuff to talk about. There's going to be some newsy sports headlines, and that's always a good thing. But want to shift gears here just a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot, because there's some controversial headlines coming out of the NHL this morning. The Edmonton Oilers have hired Stan Bowman as their general manager, replacing Ken Holland, whose contract expired at the end of this season, and I do believe is stepping away from the game, though he has not made that official announcement. Either way, the Edmonton Oilers needed a new general manager. Now, okay, they hired a general manager. What's controversial about that? Well, Stan Bowman was banned from the NHL back in 2021, just 3 years ago, after he was found that he mishandled a report made to him and other team executives during the 2010 Western Conference Final, his first year as the GM of the Chicago Blackhawks, involving a Black Ace being sexually assaulted by video coach Brad Aldrich. That Black Ace, later named John Doe, later confirmed as Chicago Blackhawks forward Kyle Beach. Just to walk through the very quickly, the how the events transpired. Let's just say it that way. Back in 2010, Kyle Beach was a prospect for the Chicago Blackhawks, was called up to the team during the 2010 Stanley Cup run for the Blackhawks. The NHL always, during the playoffs, allows teams to carry essentially a second, much smaller roster of what's called Black Aces. Players that are available to you, that travel with the team, that practice with the team, that are available in case of an injury, someone gets sick. You don't have to wait for someone to fly in, anything like that. You've got your Black Aces right there with you. Well, in 2010, after meeting with Brad Aldrich, Chicago Blackhawks video coach, at his home, Kyle Beach then came forward and told multiple team executives that he had been sexually assaulted, that an incident had taken place. Those executives or other members of the coaching staff took that to executives, including Stan Bowman, where that information was passed along to them, not only before the Western Conference Final, but also immediately after the Chicago Blackhawks eliminated the Vancouver Canucks to head to the Stanley Cup Final. The independent investigation revealed that Stan Bowman, one of the executives that was part of that larger meeting, that group of executives came to the decision that they didn't want to deal with this situation publicly during the playoffs, as to, quote, not to disturb team chemistry. Player comes to your organization reporting being sexually assaulted by one of your coaches, and the response from your GM and other executives in the room is, we'll deal with this later, not now during a playoff run. I'd say that's the first spot where they mishandled this situation, by actively looking the other way on it purely because of the time of year. Next, when Aldrich was finally confronted with the information, he was given two options. You can either submit yourself to an internal investigation in what potentially happened, or video coach Brad Aldrich, who's being accused of sexual assault, you can just resign. Those are the two options. Let's investigate and find out what happened, or you can just resign and go away. Now, with that resignation, which of course he chose, he was also given a Stanley Cup ring, had his name engraved on the Stanley Cup, was invited back to the banner-raising ceremony after the Chicago Blackhawks went on to complete the Stanley Cup win that summer, after moving on past the Western Conference Final. So not only did Stan Bowman have knowledge of the situation and chose to do nothing about it, because, by the way, after the playoffs concluded, they didn't revisit the situation. It wasn't then dealt with later at a time where they felt more comfortable disturbing team chemistry. No, not only did he participate in all of that, in knowing that it happened and not doing anything about it, he then participated in the cover-up of this incident ever being brought up to Chicago executives, owners, GMs, anything like, or excuse me, not GMs, decision makers. And when asked about it later, he said, well, I passed the information on, and I now realize that I'm wrong for not following up with that. Man, took you 20 years to realize that you not following up wasn't the right move. Okay, wow. It was October of 2021 when he chose to step aside and was banned from the NHL pending a review. here's what the Chicago Blackhawks said at the time, the statement they made on Stan Bowman, as well as other executives, including then head coach Joel Quenneville, who was coaching for the Florida Panthers in 2021. He was the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks during the 2010 run when all this happened. A lot of these individuals were stepping aside, being fired, being asked to leave their organizations. Here's what the Chicago Blackhawks said just 3 years ago. Quote, "It is clear the organization and its executives at that time did not live up to our own standards or values in handling these disturbing incidents. We deeply regret the harm caused to John Doe," again, later identified as Kyle Beach, "and the other individuals who were affected and the failure to promptly respond. As an organization, we extend our profound apologies to these individuals who suffered from these experiences. We must and will do better." So you give the Chicago Blackhawks, the new regime, partial credit? Because they did. They came in and they cleared all these folks out. They said, you're not welcome to be a part of this organization. If you were a part of that incident, you can't be a part of it here. And they came out and have since, a lot of their actions have backed up what they said. Not all, but a lot. Now, as of today, the NHL has issued a statement on Stan Bowman being hired. Again, all of the individuals who were involved in the cover-up of the incident had been banned for the last 3 years. As of July 1, the league came out and said, pending individual reviews for each of them, these individuals are eligible to be rehired by NHL teams. So here's what we're hearing from the NHL now. Stan Bowman has been rehired. Quote, "For more than the last 2.5 years, these individuals have been ineligible to work for any NHL team as a result of their inadequate response upon being informed in 2010 of allegations that Blackhawks player Kyle Beach had been assaulted by the club's video coach. While it is clear that at the time their responses were unacceptable, each of these three individuals has acknowledged that and used his time away from the game to engage in activities which not only demonstrate sincere remorse for what happened, but also evidence greater awareness of the responsibilities that all NHL personnel have, particularly personnel who are in positions of leadership." So look, here's what I will say. I don't believe in the hard canceling of people. I'm someone who believes broad strokes sense, right? Broad strokes. I'm just talking about philosophy. That hey, people deserve another chance. You got to learn. You got to learn from your mistakes. I totally believe that. But I saw an interesting point made this morning that saying, yeah, people deserve the right to work. Sure. But working in the NHL is not Stan Bowman's only option. It's not like he can work in the NHL or he's completely unhireable. And that, to me, I think is the part that's a little disappointing, especially when you look at what the Edmonton Oilers have done over the last couple seasons with personnel decisions like this. The last two players in the NHL that have had their contracts terminated due to off-ice related conduct issues, Evander Kane and Corey Perry, where did they both land for 1-year league minimum deals? Edmonton. The Oilers lose Ken Holland, in my opinion, one of the worst GMs that the league has seen in the last decade. His contract expires, he retires. The Oilers need a new GM. Well, here's one that's been banned for the last 3 years, therefore making him available on the market. The Edmonton Oilers have shown over the last 3 years that they are willing to do anything to try to give themselves a chance to win, and they don't really care what the public perception is or if the player or individual is a good or healthy fit for the organization. If they think that that individual can help them in terms of on-ice scoring or maybe being able to attract another free agent, they're willing to take the risk. This is one that I do think is going to be interesting, though. Kyle Beach is a player that was a prospect called up to the Chicago Blackhawks and was not looked out for, was not taken care of. How is that going to impact young rookies looking to get into the NHL? What are their agents, their parents, their inner circles going to say about being part of the Edmonton Oilers organization? How is it going to impact the team's ability to attract free agents? Yes, having Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid as your two stars up the middle, on the forward side of things, that helps a lot. But I know that this was a situation that a lot of players in the league did not take lightly. And I think that this could be a hire that doesn't go the way the Edmonton Oilers maybe want it to. Like I said, they've shown that they're willing to throw morality out the window and do what it takes to win. And they got close. They came within one game of winning the Stanley Cup this past season. Now, Evander Kane was out of the lineup with a sports hernia, but Corey Perry was there chipping in all along. The last two players have their contracts terminated by their teams for off-ice conduct issues, both playing for the Edmonton Oilers. Now Stan Bowman, who's been banned from the NHL for 3 years for gross misconduct, ends up in the Edmonton Oilers front office. The online response has not been great. There's been a lot of backlash already that 3 weeks after Stan Bowman is eligible to be back in the NHL, a team just can't wait to line up and give him a check. I'm not normally with the people like that who says people can't work. In this instance, I don't think that this was appropriate. I don't think it was appropriate for him to become eligible by the league pending a review and for immediately the Edmonton Oilers to say, we think you're good, another chance. This should have been something where we see him come in as an advisor to a role, start getting back involved in the game, start getting back involved with teams, maybe even at the American League level. But to just be told, hey, yep, you're right back at the top of the ticket with one of the best players, if not the best player in the league, teaches a lesson that there's no consequences. There's no real consequences here for Stan Bowman. He got to take a 3-year vacation, sit back and enjoy the money he's made. And then as soon as he was eligible, was handed another job on a silver platter. It's a disappointing message to send to the players of the league and to Kyle Beach, saying, we cared about you for 3 years, but we're good now. It's a disappointing message for the Oilers and for the league to send, honestly, especially when I think there's been a nice run here of the league kind of stacking some wins with some of the things that they've been doing. This one's definitely disappointing today. And I think if you get online, you'll see that there's a lot of folks who are making that same argument and their feelings known that this was not the move for the Edmonton Oilers. And I'll be anxious to see how they handle the fallout here in the coming days. So we'll follow that one. We'll track it as the updates come in. But definitely a disappointing day in the NHL as Stan Bowman is the first of the executives and coaches who were banned from the league to be given another shot. And like I said, it is right up at the very tippy top. Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, who were Stanley Cup finalists this year. He's right back in the driver's seat of one of the top most influential teams in the NHL right now. We'll see what comes of it. I think that's all we've got for today, folks. Like I said, we're going to get the Olympic Games fired up here in the studio. And it's going to be a fun day. It's going to be a fun end of the week here. We got all kinds of good stuff coming as the week continues to roll on. And we got more fun shows coming as Broncos kick off training camp this week. Nate Jackson will be down there bringing you guys all of the information from Dove Valley as the Broncos get on the field this week. Jay back there running the board, making sure you guys can see us and hear us. I'm Jesse Montaño. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Live moods. We'll see you tomorrow morning with another episode of Guerilla Sports Daily. Have a good one, folks.